Usinados started not in 1965 as is shown here, but in 12 years earlier, in 1953, with the immigration of Rudolph family from Germany to Brazil. And in 1965, with a very small factory, obviously not with this one, they started manufacturing tools for watchmakers. And 37 years ago, exactly in 1977, Wolfgang Rudolph, the actual president, became CEO and gave the company the image and the identity that they have until today. The picture shows a very beautiful factory with 8,000 square meters, built on a plot of almost 200,000 square meters. They employ 450 people. Their annual revenue is about $25 million. And it's necessary to say that they have a small branch in Slovakia also. And the city is Timbó, a cute and special city of the state of Santa Catarina. A city with almost 4,000 inhabitants. And a place with a lot of mid-sized factories. I saw in the Wikipedia a few days ago that Chippenham has also 4,000 inhabitants. So let's do a link between the two cities. You will see why I'm suggesting this in a few minutes. Timbó is located in a region of the state of Santa Catarina known as Preactor Valley. Because in this region there are about 20 cities founded by immigrants of Germany, Austria, Italy, and other countries. And there is a sign at the entry of this city, and we are ready to ask the mayor of Timbó to change the sign by this one. Welcome to And what would be the reason of this? This is a view from Google Earth, from almost 5,000 meters altitude. Special region with 6 sites of Preactor APS and GMPS, all of them deployed by APS3, thanks God, thanks Preactor. What about in the next year, we establish a new award? The agent that has the better relationship between Preactor and number of inhabitants. Because here we have one Preactor for each 6,000 inhabitants. In this same level, Preactor would have more than 1 million sites over the world. I did the calculation. But let's resume. Let's return to Rudolph Usinados. We can see here an illustration of some of their products. They supply to automotive, big companies of automotive layers such as Mercedes, Renault, General Motors, and others. Due to the high quality of their products, they became a reference in the machining segment, and they supply parts to household appliances also. In the next slide, I'd like to talk about the timeline involved with our in the next slide, I'm talking a bit about the challenges faced by them at that time we met him for the first time. As you can see in this slide, the production process of Rudolph consists of hundreds of primary resources, hundreds of secondary resources. They have products with 5 to 25 operations, and some items can be more than 20 days of lead time. And by summarizing the challenges they faced at that time, we can enumerate. First, they operate on a make-to-order regime. In consequence, they needed to comply delivery dates, of course. But in addition, they planned better the necessity of human resource, and they planned better the raw material purchase due to the high cost of the raw material they use. And third, or fourth, as everyone, they needed to react to unpredicted events. And in special for them, they needed to reduce special freight they used to pay for delay in deliveries. In other words, they needed to earn more money. And now, just now, moving on to the next slide, we are going to talk about the timeline of the Preactor at Rudolph. Since the first time we present Preactor to them, they knew that they needed a capacity to face the challenges, of course. But in this first time, in April 2006, they saw another important thing also. They saw that the Preactor is a clear and a simple idea. So, by consequence, they think they can do the same. And so arose our first lesson learned. Because the guys, during the next 6 years, the guys tried to implement financial capacity schedule in their own ERP. This period we like to call off 6-year battle. And the first lesson is, of course, the following. It's always necessary to clarify to the client that simple doesn't mean easy. Finally, Rudolph handed over the weapons, and in September 2012, deal was done with a 400 APS module reactor. Thanks God. And the trouble goes on. Because the project started, and the second lesson arose in the horizon for the APS3. Because the project almost collapsed just 1 month after the beginning. The project almost collapsed due to two main reasons. First reason, the managers and the supervisors of the factory thought Preactor was a substitute of the ERP. Of course, the guys linked the step 4 with the step 2, and seeing that the Preactor arrived with fighting capacity, and in the step 2 they didn't succeed, so they linked the 2 points and thought Preactor was a substitute of the ERP. And the second reason of the almost collapsed project, the second reason was the guy that was managing our project, and that is at the same time the planning manager, began to dismiss the team of planner. He had 4 persons in the team. He began to dismiss the team because he thought Preactor will do the work alone. So, our second lesson learned here. It's necessary to clarify that the Preactor doesn't have the magic bullet. There in Brazil, we usually saw this tecla pimba, aqui pimba. Sometimes clients think that Preactor won't need a smarter plan. So it's necessary to say that Preactor is as a sophisticated aircraft that will need a smarter pilot even, a smarter planner even, in order to get all the benefits they can do to the company. Fortunately, that guy, production planning manager, was changed by the CEO, and other smarter men came to help us and put things in the right places. So, with just 1 month of the delay, Preactor went live in February last year, February 2013. Right? And now, let's turn to the solution itself. The picture shows the schema of the solution, the simple solution implemented. Simple doesn't mean easy. As you can see here, Preactor is connected to the ERP. Their ERP is called SIR, Rudolph Integrated System, with TXT file on a full order file download technique, and Preactor imports production order, bill of material, stocks, purchase order, and of course return the scanner to the ERP that is connected directly to the factory floor. And the resource group was implemented by dynamic way, dynamic approach. Very simple. And talking about solution, let me show you some screens of this awesome solution, awesome software. The arrow, the red arrow is flashing, showing us about 800 primary resources, lathes, mills, machine centers, drills, and so on. In the next screen, the red flash draws our attention now for almost 800 secondary resources also. Sometimes it seems that in Rudolph, all things it's almost 800. 800 primary resources, 800 secondary resources, and so on. Here you have tools, operators, capacitors, and so on. And now, time to see the many. There are almost 4,000 operations. In this scenario, of course, because in some scenarios, it's up to 6,000 or 7,000 operations. Considering the challenges we talked about a few minutes ago, considering the number of primary resources and secondary resources, considering the lead time up to 20 days, considering items with up to 25 operations, let me ask to you, what was the method that you think we tried to schedule the operation first time there in the Rudolph? If you think minimized width forward, congratulations, it was. But it wasn't possible in that time. Because the first time we tried to use minimized width forward, we were in the release 11.2. It lasted almost 6 hours to sequence all the thousands of operations. So we have to accept to begin with the algorithm forward by due date. And nowadays, with release 12.0, even using the algorithm forward sequence by due date, Preactor needs just 25 seconds to sequence all the words. Thanks God, thanks Preactor here. But what about the whip? What's happened with the whip in this search sequence viewer range? Let's take an example. Let's take this order. Our friend order number 127501. When we lighted all their operations to see to you, to show to you that there is a week, at least 1 week between the second and third operation. And here you can see another week wasn't showed, didn't show between Operation 3 and Operation 4, and so on. Imagine the number of WIP that would occur in this future planning horizon of 5 to 6 months away, with thousands of operations. Okay, but now we have the 12 release. What about using version 12 to minimize WIP forward? Here you are. Thanks, Preactor. 25 minutes to sequence thousands of operations with minimized WIP forward comparison. In comparison of 6 hours on release 11, we can say that was a great improvement of Preactor team, of course. And what happened with our dear order, that one we called 127501. Here you are again, without WIP, of course. And just to contrast, and just to show, to draw attention to the huge benefits that Preactor achieved with this method, we put together the two situations together to show the contrast. Finally, all the work done, all the lesson learned, it has paid off. So let's look to the benefits. 12 months after go live, the following results were reached. Realistic results, but big ones. 2 indicators were overcome: raw material stocks and productivity, as you can see. 1 indicator was just activity, cash flow. 1 indicator was during the year of 2013, of course. 1 indicator was almost activity. WIP stock, of course, because just now we are starting using the 12 version, 12 release, Preactor release 12, well. And these 2 indicators, delivery performance and special freight, weren't achieved in that year of 2013 because factors independent of the production schedule. It turns out that several clients in that year, last year, changed the delivery date at the last minute. So it was impossible to achieve these 2 indicators. But we know that nowadays they are achieved. And besides the goal already achieved, Rudolph had a few other benefits. During 5 months in the last year, there is no need to replace employee due to better planning of long term. And by the using of scenarios of scheduling, they increased the productivity even more by studying better and changing the technologies involved in the process. And by consequence, 10 machines were eliminated. And 7 of them were sent to plant in Slovakia. The third world supplying technology for the first world. And even more important, a construction of a new production building was settled. No more need so much space to stop. And summarizing all, the most experienced planner of Rudolph, a guy called Rudolph Usinados, summarized. Preactor highlighted where we had idleness and we used that to do new business without investment in resource. What we call this productivity, of course. Thank you all very much.